How's it going, everybody? Happy Monday. Hope you had a phenomenal weekend. We are back at another week. It is Mardi Gras week, so hopefully you were letting the good times roll. We are here making things happen at Mallett, as always. Today we have Mr. Darrell. He's going to be talking about some engineering topics and more. As today's title suggests, we are talking about a little bit of everything, engineering, Q&As, and a couple more things here and there. But before that, as always, let's hop into the usual content for today. As always, where's Mallett? We have 97 different jobs going on, you guys. That's going to be spread out through 3 different states, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi at the moment, Mississippi. My geography was not my best subject, so bear with me. But through those 97, let's go ahead and walk through them. We have 67 different locations in Louisiana, from up here in Kisatchie all the way through to Slidell, New Orleans area. We've pretty much hit the whole I-10 corridor at this point. That's been my goal since I started to see this thing light up with little dots like that, and it's so fun. But we have materials that are being delivered, materials on the ground, buildings in construction, inspections, fill, sand, forming, plumbing, concrete, gutters, control joints, electrical, HVAC, and red tags, because even when there is mistakes, we go back and fix it. That's part of our process. So that is the true start to finish. And there's just a lot going on, you guys. We're not going to read all these names, but you can see the little dots right here. So moving along to Texas, we are hitting the whole east side as always. And again, the same, delivery, construction, inspections, fill, sand, all the way to red tags. Mallett is going strong, you guys. We always say the logistics behind this is insane. Our scheduling department is a bunch of animals down there, making sure all these crews are where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be, and making it happen. So kudos to them for all they do. That's why I'm in marketing. But moving right along, we've seen where's Mallett. Here's why Mallett. So as always, we want to talk about 2 specific things: the Rival Series and Mallett buildings, specifically the Mallett Classic, because that is our entry-level building. That is the base of what you get for the best builder in the country. But before that, let's talk about the Rival. So the Rival Series, as Mr. Trent says, is our response to people saying, well, I can get it cheaper elsewhere. Well, we figured we can still build that building. We understand it's not going to be Mallett quality, but if you just want a decent building that can get the job done, 4 walls and a roof, we got you covered, because we may as well have it built by the best builders in the country, am I right? So even if you're just getting a building everyone else can do, you're going to have it built the best and the right way by the best builders. But let's look at what is involved in that. So in the Rival Series, you're going to get 29 gauge metal, 4-on-12 roof pitch, 2x6 trusses that are going to be common flat trusses. We're going to have 130 mile an hour wind rating on that building. There's not going to be any uplift control, so we're not going to put the Mallett cable lock system because nobody else does that, so that's not going to be in the Rival Series. The posts are also going to go in the dirt, gravel, whatever aggregate is naturally there. Not going to have any kind of pad underneath. You're going to get 2x8 headers, 3,000 PSI concrete, no skirt board guards or any kind of ground protection. It's going to have a limited warranty, and it's all going to be number 2 untreated generic lumber. Now, why is this like this and not like this? We'll get to this side in a second, but let me explain this side. As I said, this side is built on code and what the industry standard building is. Now, here at Mallett, we take things a step further in everything we do. And like I said, this is our entry-level building, and let's take a deep dive into that. So as you see here, we're already off to a good start. 26 gauge metal, and that's going to be standard on every building, as is most of these features, and we'll get into that now. We're going to have a 5-on-12 roof pitch. Looks better, sheds water and debris better. It's going to allow for more runoff so you don't get clogs or mess ups on your roof, and nothing's going to get snagged on those screws as in a more shallow roof pitch. Just going to be allowing for a more prolonged life of the roof. You're also going to have 2x8 cathedral trusses, or scissor trusses, however you know the term, and that's going to be 2x8 all the way through. We're not going to have 2x4, 2x6 inner webbing, as a lot of people do who say they have 2x8s, but they really don't, because we make those here in-house. No one else does that. All those trusses are also going to be third-party inspected. We have a company that comes from out of state quite often, and they're going to make sure the whole truss plant is doing not only what we say we're going to do, but we're up to code, standard, and legal as well, to make sure everything is well oiled and we're providing the service we say we are. Our roof system is going to be rated for 170 mile an hour as well as, and our building for the Classic is going to be 140 mile an hour wind rating. We're going to have the Mallett cable lock system. We love talking about this because this is the main reason why we have never lost a single building to a hurricane. The one we're standing in now has made it through 16 hurricanes, and it's 3 stories. So you do with that information what you want, but it's pretty stable. It's housing a lot of things right now. But we're also going to have concrete under every post pad. That's going to be an 80-pound bag of concrete that gets placed under every 6x6 post as a post pad. That's going to prevent unwanted settling and odd shifting of the building because you have a firm foundation to rest it on. We're also going to have two 2x12 headers. We're going to have 4-inch, 4,000 PSI concrete skirt board guards for ground protection. We're going to start with a 4-year workmanship warranty. That's more than a lot of people have even been in business, but we've been around for 27 years, so we can definitely honor those warranties. And all the wood is going to be #1 MCA ground treated kiln dried lumber that just flows so easy after how many times I've had to say that. But that means everything is going to be pressure treated, ground treated, and kiln dried. All that excess moisture is going to be pulled from the wood as much as possible to prevent future cracking and shrinking of the wood. It's going to be done for you in the plant. We're also going to have ground treatment from the ground to the roof of the building, allowing for protection from wood destroying insects like termites, beetles, and things like that, as well as the elements and the concrete, all the chemicals and all that thing. The wood's going to be protected from that. And as always, we're going to have engineering oversight that is in-house. Mr. Darrell's here. You're going to meet him shortly if you haven't already. But as you know, he and his team oversee everything to make sure the building is not only designed properly, but built properly to those specified designs. Because I heard someone say once, it doesn't matter if you can build it, it doesn't matter if you can design it, it matters if you can build it. That was Mr. Darrell. He said that, so good information, right? But that is the Mallett Classic, and that is, again, our entry-level building. It only gets better from there. But when you're interested in buying a Mallett building, of course, we want to always offer our $500 discount to the people we consider our hero service workers. It's going to be healthcare workers, first responders, military personnel, and teachers and educators. We just want to say thank you for what you do. We consider it a service to our community and those in it, so grab your $500 off. Also, the Magical Mardi Gras Tiger is going to give you $1,000 off if you comment cash on a live stream like this because we have Tiger Cash. That is going to apply to any elite or signature building that is not on special or promotion. I'm sorry, but there's cool specials coming up here soon. We're going to get to those. But if you want $1,000 off, you can comment cash. And if you're in one of these categories, you can bundle those together for $1,500 off. We've had plenty of people do it. And that's a pretty good weekend away if you want to go celebrate your Mallett building being built. That's all I'm saying. I don't really know what you do with your money, but that's what I would do. Now, we've seen all the stuff about the promotions. Let's talk about those. February has some cool stuff going on. We're going to have a classic special this month, you guys. Here's an example here. This 30 by 40 by 12 was $32,389. It's now $29,499. And we're going to throw in free single bubble insulation. Now, the single bubble insulation applies to any classic building that is 1,000 square foot or more. So for the month of February, which is almost over, we're in the final full month. As you know, again, Mardi Gras is this week. Be safe out there. But you're going to get free single bubble insulation on any building you get on the books before the end of February, as long as it is a classic 1,000 square foot or more. Now, that's going to come with everything we talked about, as well as a roll-up door, the warranty, and the concrete is included. We get that question asked a lot. Yes, concrete comes on every building. It is what I like to call the finishing touch. Once you see the concrete pulling up, you know the building's almost done. But that is the special for February. We also, as always, have the Cajun Oasis. Now, Mr. Trent says he's trying to push this out right now. It's done super well, but it's time for something new. So we may or may not be in the works for a new special to replace the Cajun Oasis. So I will turn your attention to the limited time offer up here because it is officially on the chopping block and it won't be here much longer. But that being said, this is a Cajun Oasis Classic. It is a 30 by 50 by 12, and we just went over everything in the Classic. So you know the value you're getting here. But for $49,999, that is going to include the Classic building and insulation, a climate control package, and a full electrical package, and a 5-ton wall-mounted unit that's going to be heated and cooled so no matter the temperature, because we know it snows, rains, pours, sleets, and has heat stroke all in the same day here in Louisiana, and that's just before noon. But that has no issue with this building because it comes with all of that ready to go for $49,999. That is a $16,000 value just between the electrical package and 5-ton unit. And if you're bougie like that, you can ask for a spray foam upgrade because we have that option as well. But if you're like me and think, well, don't you have a higher package and you want to get the best of the best because you only want to buy it once? And if you're going to buy it once, it may as well be the best. You know, that's just what I would do. Again, we have the Cajun Oasis Elite. Same features, same $16,000 value. It's going to be a 30 by 50 by 12 for $59,999. But you may be looking at this and see a few differences. That's because this is an elite building, which is the top tier and the best dang building in the entire country, I have to say. It's going to come with 2 windows, a roll-up door, a walk-through door. You're going to have gutters as well, and what you can't see is the post protectors that are included as well. It's also going to be a 6-inch 4,000 PSI concrete slab. You're going to have 160 mile an hour wind rating on the building, 170 on the roof, and a slew of other features. That's just to name a few, all of which when you add together is about probably $16,000, $15,000 just to upgrade a few of those features. That's not all the ones we didn't mention. So that $10,000 difference to make the jump from classic to elite with a full decked out building that all you have to do is hook the electrical up to it and you're ready to go. It's not that bad, you guys, and don't worry, it's available now, but it won't be for long. So make sure you get on that if that is an interest of yours. Now, when you are looking for these buildings, we want to make sure whether you use Mallett or not, of course we want you to let us earn your business, but we understand you're an educated shopper and you're going to look around. Here's something to help you with that process. We call it the 5 red flags. Number 1 is going to be years of business, which you can check on the Secretary of State website. This is going to be where you see if the person you're discussing business with is actually a licensed business. If their name doesn't appear there, they're not a licensed business and you should consider working with someone else because they can't legally offer what they are offering, plain and simple. And speaking of licenses, if you check out the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors, or the LSLBC for short, you can check for contractor licensure. That is their residential license, commercial license, industrial, whatever that realm they're trying to work in, they have to be licensed for that as well. So there's actual business license, then there's contractor's license. These are no less important, no more important, but they're all important, and you can check those at the LSLBC. And while you're there, you can check for contractor violations as well. Unfortunately, most everyone in the business has a violation. Now, Mallett Buildings, as always, is the outlier because in our 27 years of business, we have 0 contractor violations. We plan to continue that record for 30, 40, 50 years and more. As long as we're in business, we plan to have a squeaky clean record. But if you are on the LSLBC website, I recommend you ask the people you're interviewing to build your building about their violations because they often won't tell you, and to me, that's a red flag in itself. Now, moving forward, reviews on the BBB and Google. We are proud to say we have over 700 verified reviews on the BBB, and before I come up here, I ran some numbers. We have a 4.78 out of 5-star review between the Better Business Bureau and Google and our 700 plus reviews. We're also A+ rated on the BBB, and we are incredibly proud of that. I consider reviews like the honest truth because you're going to get some good, some bad, and when you mix them all together, you get a little bit clearer of an idea of what actually happened from a customer's perspective. And with Mallett Buildings, any good and negative review, we also respond and help correct those issues if there were, and we just thank you if there weren't. But check out reviews. A lot of people don't even have a handful, and the ones they do, unfortunately for them, are not that good. I'm proud to say, even with the bad ones here at Mallett, I highly encourage you to see how we handle the situation because 9 times out of 10, there was a remedy that was good for everyone in that situation. And the good reviews are just so much fun to read. Pop some popcorn, sit back and take a look at those. It's like a movie. Trust me, it's a great thing to read, but make sure you read the reviews. If you're gonna buy a hair dryer or a dishwasher on Amazon or wherever, you're probably gonna read some reviews. Your builder should be no different. And finally, we have visit the contractor's facility. This is a great one because, like Mr. Trent says, a lot of people are out there doing business out the front seat of their truck. Nothing wrong with that. Everyone has to start from somewhere. We understand that. But when it comes to your building, which is an investment and hopefully an asset to your property, you want to make sure it's done right, well, and it's going to stand the test of time and keep that resale value because we all know at the end of the day, it's an investment. But visit the facility is so important because here at Mallett, you can come and see where everything is made. We have the truss plant, we have the gutters being made, we have the roll form plant that's going to be done here in the next few months. Hoping to have it done sooner than later, but it is trucking along. It's a massive facility. But what's even cooler than that is everyone involved in the process, from the building specialist to marketing to engineers to designers to scheduling to the crews that put your concrete, your building together, all of that. They're all here on site, and you get to meet the people and put a face to the name and just know who's going to be working on your project. You get to know your designer, get to know your engineers, get to know everyone here, and I promise you'll be welcomed with a warm, smiling face and a good handshake. And every now and then there's popcorn, but there hasn't been for a while. I need to talk to y'all about that. I need some popcorn in my life. But come check out the facility, come say hey, we'd love to have you. We're right off the interstate here in Iowa, Louisiana. And if you're considering a building, we want to be part of your stop and your journey, and we can't wait to earn your business. But that is it for this portion. We're going to turn it over to Darrell, and we're going to talk about a little bit of everything.
Hey, I'm Darrell, the engineer here at Mallett, and my voice has improved from last week. If you remember, that's okay if you don't. I have two corny jokes I'd like to share with you. Start. The first one is, there are two types of trusses: scissored trusses and common trusses, which are flat trusses. But here at Mallett, common trusses are not common anymore because we use scissor trusses. That's so bad it's not even hardly a joke. And then the other joke is, when at another part of my life I used to design mausoleums, and like the raised mausoleums they have in New Orleans and around. And the great thing about designing mausoleums is you don't have to worry about the live load. Okay. Moving on. So we got some questions from people as I was talking about concrete last week. And I think I probably said when I started speaking about concrete that I don't really like to talk about concrete because concrete is kind of mysterious. And engineers, it kind of drives us crazy to keep it from cracking. And I told you last week that one of the things that you do to keep it from I said two things. I said most of the cracking that occurs in concrete occurs the day that it's poured. And the second thing I said was it has a lot to do with how much water is in the concrete mix. And I talked about the slump test. And so, but anyway, we had some questions and I'll try to address them a little bit. So Jeff commented that he, let's see, let me get it all. Yeah, here it is. Jeff, you talked thoroughly about the strength of concrete and the weight of vehicles. That's good, but I would like to hear more about wall and ceiling weights above the concrete as in the barndominium. This is my concern as I am using my elite Mallett building for a future home. So the reason I was speaking about the load and that concentrated load and the vehicle loads was to kind of give you a comparison, because I found this chart that someone had done some testing and found that the 6-inch slab was significantly stronger than a 4-inch slab, and so that's the first thing. And so that's good that your elite building, Mr. Jeff, would have a 6-inch slab. Now, in terms of the loads for a future barndominium, if you have a 2-story barndominium, which I'd have to see your floor plan, then it's a good idea to have a grade beam under the bearing walls. And so that's something that I can talk to you about if you want to call me, and we'll talk about it. But see, that brings up a point and we're always in this conundrum, because people come to us and they buy an accessory building, and many times they don't even tell us what they're going to do with it. And they don't tell us that it's a future barndominium. And so they pour a 6-inch flat slab or a 4-inch flat slab, and then they put a barn dominium on top of it. Well, it probably would have been better to have some grade beams under the bearing walls. So anyway, that was one comment. Another comment, it says on my 40 by 50, y'all didn't put any control joints. I even asked about it and was told y'all don't do that, not needed. Although I don't have any cracking now, I do worry about what might happen in the future. So, you don't have any cracking now, that's good. I don't know when your building was constructed. We've been doing a lot of saw cutting for the past several months, and we do that pretty much with all our buildings, I believe. And I think, but that's an extra cost that the salesman talks about. And I found that to be very effective in like big warehouses to do saw cutting on like a 25 by 25 foot grid. But there again, that gets into the mystery of concrete. But as I've said, if you don't have any cracking now, it's likely you're not going to have any cracking. And especially if you're just putting normal loads on the building. And then I got one that says, this guy is crazy. I assume speaking about me, which I would tend to agree with you. And then he says, wood is cheap. I agree. Has a construction ecosystem built for residential. I agree. And then he says it's weak compared to CLT and LVL, which he's talking about glue lams and LVL lumber. And I don't really know where this person's going. And he says steel is superior in all cases except for cost. And I would agree with that. But what I'm speaking about when I compare your steel building to our wood frame building is that for what people are using the structure for, the steel is overkill in most cases. And so it's a lot stronger, it's a lot more expensive, and it might be a lot more than you need. And so that's where I'm coming from. I'm not going to argue with the crazy comment, though. And then another guy said that I was incorrect. That's totally possible, but don't really think so. Your framing needs to sit on the post. You are relying on the fasteners to support the weight. Wrong. Okay. So that's kind of a broad issue. I don't remember exactly what I said to prompt that comment, but I would say that, you know, our structures are designed per code, that our connections are designed with safety factors that meet the code and meet the industry standards. And so I feel real good about our structure. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. Okay, so that's those questions. And then the other, on the topic of this and that, I wanted to go through this. So, Tyler, since you're here, you can answer these trivia questions. Okay, so what year was concrete first used?
They used it in ancient Egypt, didn't they?
Yeah, ancient Egypt, got that right, but what year, if you had to guess?
Here, I have me a microphone over here. 400.
6500 BC.
I was wrong.
Yeah, good gracious. This says people in modern day Syria and Jordan first created the first concrete-like structure, including floors, houses, and secret underground waterproof cisterns to survive in the desert. Now, Now, to what you're talking about, you said 400, and this might be what you were thinking about. In like 300 BC to 400 AD, the Romans, they began to use concrete, and they mixed volcanic ash with it, and they created a smoother concrete, and that's what they used to build all of their tremendous Roman structures. But 400 AD, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So concrete's been around for a long time. And then this says one more concrete fact, as opposed to abstract fact. British engineer John Smeaton rediscovered hydraulic lime while rebuilding the Eddystone Lighthouse, marking the start of modern concrete. Okay, and then one more. In 1891, the first concrete street in the United States was poured in Ohio. And I think that street, I saw a picture that I think that street is still there, and I think they have a sign by it that says first concrete street in America, 1891. That's a long time ago. In the 1980s, there were still many roads. There were state highways in Louisiana in the 1980s that were gravel. So that's something else. Okay, on to the next trivia. What about nails? When were the first nails used? Tyler? Nails, yeah.
1500 BC.
Close, 4000 BC. Bronze nails in ancient Egypt. Archaeologists uncover bronze nails used in shipbuilding and furniture. That's a long time ago. And then for a long time, there was no machine to make nails, and of course, in the 1900s, they invented the wire nail and the machines to make them, and that really changed things. Screws have been around since the 1400s. They were used for things like wooden gun stocks, I guess, when guns were invented, and before that, the screws were used in armor, so screws have been around a long time. Okay, so that's that smorgasbord. We're almost finished. Well, I got two more things. So that the next thing was, what's the difference between, or what's the difference between the structural damage caused by a tornado and the structural damage caused by a hurricane? And I thought about that because one of our buildings, and I just overheard it and I didn't get the particulars. One of our buildings was struck by a tornado, and this weekend, and it ripped part of the roof off, and it buckled the overhead doors. And so what's the difference between that force of a tornado and the force of a hurricane? Well, it's almost, I think the easy way to say it or to illustrate it is that it's like the difference between a paintbrush and a ballpoint pen. A hurricane is the paintbrush, where it's just pushing, and you've probably heard people, maybe you've seen this from in your life, that like the winds of a hurricane, like the way it knocks over a tree a lot of times is the tree doesn't snap. The winds push the tree, and the tree pushes over, and then it comes back. And for a period of several minutes, sometimes hours, that pushing occurs, and finally the roots give way. Now, and so you see trees down everywhere. But you also see trees snapped. And that's from the force of the tornado most of the time. And so, and it's, of course, you know, the wind speeds of a tornado, an EF5, a very strong tornado, is, they say, is in excess of 300 miles per hour, you know, but it's that concentrated force. And of course, there's such a mystery to all this stuff because, you know, like when an extreme hurricane, a strong hurricane hits, it has numerous tornadoes wrapped all in outside of it. Nobody's around to see it most of the time because everybody's evacuated. But anyway, this scientific paper that I was reading says tornadoes have a powerful vertical updraft component that can lift heavy objects like cars or roofs. Hurricane winds are primarily horizontal, behaving more like straight line winds that push against structures. And so that's kind of the difference. And that's why our building failed, or part of our building failed, is because those vertical updraft components and those just weird forces. And then the last thing I wanted to look at today was just the aesthetic look of our buildings. And this again is in the competition with our dear friends in the engineer metal building business, because to me, our wood trusses and our wood post just give you, and our 5-on-12 roof pitch just gives you a homier look. And these are just buildings. You've probably seen this picture. This is one of our pictures that we show a lot, but this is another one. You see, this is the thing. You say, well, that could be a metal building. How do you know if that building is metal or wood? Well, you really don't. But this is where you know. It's the porch. You see, that porch kind of looks like a place where you could put a rocking chair and just kind of sit and chill. And it doesn't have that industrial look, especially the post, the wooden post. I like the wooden post. Here's another photo. This was a kind of a special project where the owner provided, I think, these large, I think those are 12 by 12 posts. But there again, you know, that's wood frame. You're not going to get that kind of look from a metal building. And there's another one of our projects. That one again. Let's see if I can. Okay. Let's see. That's another one. It's got the wooden post. Another one. Okay, this one. Yeah, this is a job that has just recently been built. And see here again, you know, this is the look that you get with one of our buildings, and especially the porch. And then this shows you the scissor trusses that we have now, and that's the inside of the building. There's scissor trusses from the other view, and that's the end. Well, this was a scattered talk. I understand that. A little of this, a little of that. And I hope it was informative. And if you have questions, specific questions, please contact us. And especially contact us if you're interested in buying a metal building. Because we want to tell you that that's not the right thing to do. We want to tell you that our building can compete with them, especially aesthetically and price. We will beat those metal buildings. See y'all later.